humanity had always been considered weak in the eyes of the galaxy's great empires. As a young, insignificant species, Earth had been little more than a speck in the vast expanse of the universe. For centuries, it had been under the watchful gaze of the alien powers, who viewed humanity's advancements with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Their weapons were primitive, their ships outdated, and their understanding of the stars limited. The galaxy had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, and Earth was destined to be another forgotten footnote in its history. But in the unlikeliest of places, in the heart of the human race's homeworld, a change was brewing. It began with the discovery of a long-lost alien technology. It wasn't much, just a small artifact, buried deep beneath the Earth's surface, hidden for millennia. When a team of human archaeologists stumbled upon it, no one could have predicted what it would set in motion. The device, despite its age, still contained a wealth of knowledge. It was a key, a map to ancient alien archives spread across the galaxy. It was the first tangible evidence that humanity could stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's more advanced races. At first, the discovery was dismissed by most governments. After all, how could a simple species like humans unlock the secrets of the stars? But as whispers of the find spread, a new generation of explorers began to emerge, men and women driven by ambition, intelligence, and an unyielding desire to prove the galaxy wrong. They formed a covert alliance, known only to a few, dedicated to understanding this alien technology and using it to elevate humanity to the stars. It wasn't long before the first human ships began leaving Earth's atmosphere. They were crude compared to the sleek, imposing vessels of the galactic empires, but they were fast, stealthy, and capable of warping through space in ways that had once been considered impossible. These ships were powered by the knowledge hidden in the artifact. Humans, with their unique ability to adapt and innovate, had managed to reverse-engineer the technology, crafting ships that could rival anything the alien empires had ever created. But as humanity's reach extended into the stars, so too did the suspicions of the galaxy's ruling powers. The first encounter came when a small human fleet ventured into the border systems of the expansive Atrix Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. The Atrix had long considered themselves the supreme rulers of the galaxy, their fleet striking fear into all who crossed their path. But the humans were undeterred, pushing forward with their primitive ships, refusing to acknowledge the might of the Dominion. At first, the Atrix sent a single patrol ship to intercept the human vessels. They expected an easy victory, but when the patrol ship attempted to make contact, they were met with a barrage of fire from human ships, aggressive, unpredictable, and far more advanced than they had anticipated. The Atrix were stunned. They had never encountered anything like it. The encounter ended in a standoff, with the Atrix fleet backing off and the humans retreating, their ships damaged but still operational. It was a warning shot, a signal that humanity would no longer remain in the shadows. The Dominion was the first to realize that they had underestimated the humans. But they would not be the last. Word spread quickly through the galaxy about the humans' unexpected resistance, and the question began to rise: what if these insignificant beings were more than they appeared? What if they had the potential to rise above their station and threaten the galaxy's order? In the aftermath of the encounter, human leaders gathered in secret, determined to take their fate into their own hands. They knew that the galaxy would never accept them as equals, but they also knew something that the alien empires had overlooked: humans were not defined by their weaknesses. They were defined by their determination, their ingenuity, and their willingness to fight for what was theirs. The stage was set. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once, but it would not make that mistake again. The humans, with their newfound strength and unwavering resolve, were on the brink of something much greater. The age of weakness was over. The time of the Warlords was about to begin. The encounter with the Atrix Dominion was the spark, but it was only the beginning. Humanity, once the underdog, had tasted the thrill of battle and the power that came with their newfound technology. The moment the Atrix withdrew, the galaxy's power brokers took notice. It became clear to them that Earth, long thought to be a backwater planet, had become a serious threat. But rather than retreating in fear, humanity pressed forward, determined to secure their place in the galactic hierarchy. In the years that followed, humanity's fleet continued to grow, not through conquest but by leveraging their technological advantages. Human scientists and engineers, once considered only capable of copying existing designs, now took the lead in creating innovations that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ingenuity became legendary, as the first supercharged warships were deployed, massive, heavily armored vessels capable of devastating entire fleets with ease. But it wasn't just the ships that made humanity dangerous, it was the soldiers. Earth's military had always been trained to adapt and think on their feet, using whatever they had at their disposal to win. But now, under the leadership of brilliant tacticians and fearless commanders, humanity's soldiers became an unstoppable force. No longer were they seen as weak and unrefined, they were swift, brutal, and ruthless. They fought with a fire that no alien race could match. Humanity's first true test came when they set their sights on the Zorith Coalition, a confederation of various alien species united under one banner. The coalition had long been known for its brutality, controlling entire sectors of space through fear and oppression. When they received word of human ships operating on the fringes of their domain, they saw it as nothing more than an irritant, an opportunity to crush a fledgling power before it could grow. But the coalition was gravely mistaken. The humans didn't simply engage in conventional warfare. They used their superior knowledge of alien technology to infiltrate coalition systems, launching cyber attacks that crippled their fleets before any battle even began. The Zorith were shocked by the audacity of the humans. They had expected a traditional clash of forces, but instead, they faced an enemy who fought with brains as much as brawn. The humans didn't just win battles, they crippled the coalition's very infrastructure, targeting their supply lines, communications, and even their leadership. Each victory, each strike against the coalition's heart, served as a message: humanity was no longer content to remain a minor player in galactic affairs. They would not be subjugated. With each victory, the human fleet grew bolder, and the galaxy took notice. Alien races who had once seen humanity as little more than vermin now feared the rise of the human war machine, as they were quickly becoming known. Those who had once mocked Earth's insignificance now trembled at the sight of human ships crossing their borders. The warlords of Earth, the generals, and commanders who had emerged from the chaos, began to rise in prominence. These were not the traditional leaders of human history. They were visionaries, hardened in the fires of conflict, and ruthless in their pursuit of power. They were not content with mere survival, they sought domination. And each victory, no matter how small, solidified their position. General Asha Valen was one such leader. She had once been a tactical officer in the Earth Defense Forces, but after her fleet destroyed an entire Atrix battalion in a surprise assault, she became something more, a symbol of humanity's rise. Under her leadership, the humans adopted more aggressive tactics, invading alien territories and demanding their loyalty or submission. She became known as the Unyielding for her refusal to accept anything less than complete victory. Valen's rise was mirrored by others, as the human warlords carved out their own territories and empires among the stars. They were no longer just defenders of Earth, they were conquerors. They took the fight to the galaxy, and the galaxy had no choice but to pay attention. But even as humanity's warlords grew in power, so too did the stakes. The alien empires were no longer content to simply watch. They began to unite, realizing that if they didn't stop humanity now, they would face an unstoppable force. But as they prepared for the inevitable war, they underestimated humanity's greatest weapon, the human spirit. For the warlords of Earth, it wasn't just about power, it was about survival. And they would stop at nothing to see their species ascend to the throne of the galaxy, proving once and for all that even the weakest of species could rise to become the fiercest of predators. As humanity's warlords established their dominions across the galaxy, the conflict that had once been a series of isolated skirmishes exploded into full-scale warfare. The Zorith Coalition and the Atrix Dominion, recognizing the growing threat humanity posed, forged an uneasy alliance, pledging to stop the human advance before their power became too great. But this alliance was fragile, held together by a common enemy rather than any genuine unity. The very differences between the two empires, in their leadership, culture, and ideals, would prove to be their undoing. On the eve of the first true galactic conflict, the humans held a decisive advantage in innovation. General Asha Valen, now leading the largest and most formidable human fleet ever assembled, was determined to take the war directly to the heart of their enemies. The Atrix Dominion and Zorith coalition had long dominated the core worlds, but those worlds were about to find themselves under siege, as humanity's warlords sought to cripple their infrastructure and expose the cracks in their combined forces. Humanity's first major assault came at the heart of the Atrix capital, a planet named Cordok, famed for its impenetrable defense networks and vast fleet. The Atrix had always believed their dominance was unchallenged, but humanity had already begun to uncover the flaws in their security measures. General Valen, with her unmatched intelligence and audacity, developed a plan that would test the very limits of the Atrix defenses. The humans didn't engage the Atrix fleet head-on. Instead, they used guerrilla tactics, slipping past their formidable defenses in the dead of night. Small human ships, now equipped with cloaking technology derived from the alien artifact they had discovered years earlier, snuck into the heart of Cordok's defense grid. With precision, they sabotaged the Atrix's massive energy shields, rendering the planet vulnerable. The surprise attack caught the Atrix completely off guard. Their vast fleet was scattered and disorganized as human warships descended upon their planet, targeting key military installations and government hubs. The Atrix found themselves fighting a war on two fronts: in space, where human warships outmaneuvered and outgunned their vessels, and on the surface, where human forces, led by ruthless warlords and elite soldiers, began to systematically dismantle their strongholds. But it wasn't just the military might that drove the humans forward. As the battle raged on, something unexpected happened. The people of Cordok, once loyal to their alien overlords, began to question their rulers. They had always been told that the Atrix were invincible, that no force in the galaxy could defeat them. But the human warlords, with their relentless drive and unparalleled ingenuity, shattered that illusion. Human propaganda, deliberate, powerful, and unyielding, spread throughout the conquered worlds. They offered freedom, a promise of power to those who would join them, and the strength of a united people who had risen from nothing. The Atrix, in their arrogance, had assumed their subjects were subjugated for life. But now, those subjects saw a different way. Some defected, abandoning their former masters to fight alongside the humans. As Cordok fell, the first major victory of humanity's conquest of the galaxy became clear. The Atrix Dominion, once the mightiest empire in the galaxy, had been shattered by an unexpected force: humans. Their elite warriors had been overwhelmed by a species they had considered beneath them, and the result was disastrous. The Atrix had underestimated humanity's ability to fight, adapt, and overcome, and they paid the price for that miscalculation. But the victory was bittersweet. The Zorith coalition, fearing that the humans would now turn their sights on them, launched a full-scale retaliation. Their fleets, now united in their hatred of humanity, descended upon the human warlords' territories with a vengeance. The bloodshed that followed was unparalleled in galactic history. Every system that had once been a beacon of peace and prosperity was now embroiled in violent conflict. Humanity had proven that they could stand against the galaxy's greatest powers, but now they had to prove that they could hold what they had taken. The Atrix and Zorith, though fractured, were not yet defeated. The warlords of Earth, now more powerful and determined than ever, found themselves caught in a struggle that would push them to the brink of destruction. Every victory came at a price: human lives were lost, allies were betrayed, and new enemies emerged. But for every loss, humanity gained something more precious: experience, unity, and the unshakable belief that they could overcome anything. They had risen from weakness, and they would not be stopped. The bloodied path humanity walked was a testament to their resolve, a warning to the galaxy that the age of the underdog was over. As the human warlords continued their relentless campaign across the galaxy, the once proud empires of the Atrix and Zorith found themselves reeling from the shockwaves of humanity's unprecedented rise. Cordok had fallen, but it was only the first domino to fall in a chain of chaos that would echo across the stars. The defeat of the Atrix Dominion had shattered their empire's confidence, and the Zorith coalition, despite its initial unity, was now split. Discord among their ranks began to surface, and cracks appeared in their seemingly impenetrable alliances. The Zorith, a coalition of various species bound together by the promise of power, began to fracture. Some species within the coalition, particularly those who had always viewed the humans as nothing more than a nuisance, began to question the wisdom of their leaders. The defeat at Kordok was a brutal reminder that underestimating humanity was not only foolish, but also fatal. The warlords of Earth had outwitted the Zorith at every turn, and they were growing ever bolder. Some Zorith leaders, emboldened by their own losses, even began to suggest the possibility of negotiating a peace with the humans, an idea that was vehemently opposed by the more hawkish members of the coalition. At the heart of the chaos was the Zorith High Council, a group of the most powerful alien leaders in the galaxy. The Atrix, reeling from their own losses, began to fracture as well, but it was the Zorith who now posed the greatest threat to humanity's future. While their fleets still outnumbered the human forces, their unity was crumbling. The humans had found a way to exploit these divisions. As the human warlords carved out new territories, they used propaganda and strategic warfare to turn the various factions of the Zorith against each other, playing them off one another in a game of galactic chess. General Asha Valen, who had risen to prominence as the architect of humanity's rise, saw an opportunity. The coalition's lack of cohesion was its greatest weakness. While the Zorith bickered amongst themselves, the humans pressed forward. Valen devised a plan to exploit this disarray. She targeted the weakest link in the coalition, a species known as the Pytherians, a reptilian race that had always been distrustful of the Zorith leadership. Using a combination of diplomacy and military pressure, Valen made an offer the Pytherians couldn't refuse: join the humans, and they would be given dominion over a sector of space that had once been controlled by the Zorith. The Pytherians, eager for power and recognition, quickly aligned themselves with the humans. This was the turning point. With the Pytherians now in their corner, humanity had a foothold within the heart of the Zorith coalition. The once unified front of the Zorith was beginning to crack apart, and Valen knew that this was the moment to strike. The human fleet, bolstered by the newly allied Pytherians, moved swiftly toward the coalition's core worlds. In the wake of humanity's success, more and more Zorith factions began to defect, seeing the humans as a more viable path to power. The Pytherian alliance proved to be the spark that set off a chain reaction. Other disillusioned species, who had once served under the thumb of the Zorith, began to look to humanity as their liberators. The warlords of Earth, led by Valen, knew they could not afford to be seen as mere conquerors. They had to present themselves as the true unifiers of the galaxy, the liberators of the oppressed. Their message resonated with countless species who had long suffered under the yoke of the Zorith. As the human fleets pushed deeper into coalition space, they faced fierce resistance. The Zorith forces, despite their fractures, still maintained formidable power. But now, their ranks were thinner, divided, and increasingly demoralized. Humanity's tactics, surprise attacks, psychological warfare, and masterful manipulation of alien weaknesses, ensured that their enemies were never able to regroup long enough to mount a successful counterattack. The blood of the battlefield stained the stars, but the outcome was becoming ever clearer: humanity was no longer the underdog. They were the apex predators, and the galaxy would either adapt or perish under their rising dominance. The Zorith, once the terror of the galaxy, were now on the verge of collapse. As their fleets scattered and their strongholds fell one by one, they had no choice but to consider the impossible: surrender to the humans. General Valen, though ruthless in her tactics, knew that this moment of victory would not last forever. The remaining powers in the galaxy, including the Atrix, were watching. If humanity were to claim ultimate victory, they would need more than just military might. They would need the support of those who had once viewed them as nothing more than a footnote. This fragile alliance of broken empires would either fall under the rule of Earth's warlords, or it would fight to the bitter end. But for now, the humans were victorious. The galaxy had been shaken to its core, and the alliances that had once seemed unshakable were now in ruins. The time of the human warlords had come, and they would not be denied. The shattered empires of the galaxy had no idea what was about to descend upon them next. Humanity had carved its place in the stars, but the universe was not done testing them. Despite the shifting tides of war and the fractures among the galaxy's most powerful empires, a final threat loomed, one that would push humanity to the edge of annihilation. The Zorith coalition, though splintered, was not yet defeated. Their strongest factions, the militaristic Kalroth and the elusive Ithra, had managed to regroup and form an alliance, united by the singular goal of wiping out humanity before their rebellion could fully reshape the galaxy. In the darkest corners of coalition space, a new weapon was born. A colossal battle station, the Zoritha's last resort, was being constructed in secret. The Ithra, known for their mastery of ancient, forbidden technologies, had brought the war to an unprecedented level of danger. This battle station, a monstrous behemoth capable of obliterating entire fleets with a single shot, was now their ultimate answer to humanity's insurrection. The first signs of this threat were the strange, unmarked ships that began to appear on the outer rim of human-occupied space. These vessels, sleek and deadly, carried only one message: the end was coming. General Valen, who had led humanity to countless victories, knew this was no ordinary weapon. The silence surrounding it was deafening. The galaxy had always underestimated Earth's military intelligence, but this time, Valen had no illusions. Humanity had to act fast, or their newfound empire would collapse under the weight of this terror. In a daring move, Valen dispatched a covert strike force, a team of her most elite soldiers, to infiltrate the Zoritha's hidden systems and gather intelligence on the new weapon. They breached enemy lines, slipping undetected through the void of space, a dangerous gambit that could cost them everything. The mission was simple: gather enough intel to understand how to destroy the weapon before it could be used. But the deeper they ventured into Zorith territory, the clearer it became that the weapon was not simply a tool of destruction, it was a symbol of the Zoritha's desperation. The Ithra had poured everything into its creation. It was more than just a weapon, it was a statement of their refusal to accept humanity's rise. The Zorith, who had once viewed the humans as a nuisance, now saw them as an existential threat. The strike force, led by Captain Talon Rook, one of humanity's finest tacticians, finally uncovered the truth. The Zorith had perfected a weapon that could not only destroy entire fleets, but could destabilize entire planetary systems by manipulating gravity itself. With it, they could collapse stars, create artificial black holes, and wipe out civilizations in the blink of an eye. It was a weapon that could end humanity's rise before it ever reached its peak. Rook's team barely escaped with their lives, bringing the crucial intelligence back to Valen. But the news was grim. The weapon was nearly operational, and the Zoritha's forces had already begun moving it into position. The time for subtlety had passed. Humanity would need to confront this new threat head-on, but it would come at an unimaginable cost. Valen understood the stakes. If the weapon was not destroyed, the entire human empire, built on the blood and sacrifice of countless soldiers, would be wiped from existence. The Zoritha's new alliance, bolstered by the Ithra's devastating technology, could bring about the end of everything humanity had fought for. As humanity prepared for what was to come, Valen called upon every warlord, every general, every soldier, and every ally they had made along the way. They had forged alliances with races that had once been their enemies. Now, they would need to stand together. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands. The human warlords, each hardened by years of brutal conflict, prepared to launch a final assault on the Zoritha's secret stronghold. They knew that this battle would be different. The Zorith had no intention of negotiating, no plans to surrender. Their only goal was the destruction of humanity. The human fleet, despite its previous victories, faced an enemy that had fought and survived for millennia. The odds were once again stacked against them. The battle would not just be fought in space, it would be a test of human willpower, determination, and the ingenuity that had made them the most feared species in the galaxy. As the fleet prepared to enter Zorith space, Valen looked out at the stars, knowing that this could be the end of their empire, or the beginning of something even greater. She had led humanity from weakness to warlord status, but now they faced their greatest challenge, a weapon unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, and a war unlike any they had ever fought. The bloodied path humanity had walked was about to lead them into the heart of darkness. Humanity's fleet, now a coalition of warlords, defectors, and former enemies united under one banner, moved into the heart of Zorath space. Their mission was clear: destroy the Zoratha's gravity-manipulating weapon, which had the potential to obliterate entire systems and crush humanity's fledgling empire. But the weight of their objective was heavy, and the silence that filled the human warships was a testament to the gravity of their task. General Asha Valen stood on the command bridge of her flagship, the Reaver, as her fleet entered enemy territory. The tension was palpable. She knew that they would be walking directly into the Zoratha's most heavily fortified region, a stretch of space that had been a no-go zone for centuries. The Zorath had anticipated an assault and had deployed an armada to guard the weapon's location, a gargantuan, floating battle station that lay in the dead center of a massive asteroid field, protected by artificial gravity fields, shields, and an entire fleet of warships. If they failed, the weapon would obliterate them, but if they succeeded, the entire galaxy would be forever changed. Approaching the asteroid field, General, reported Captain Talon Rook, who had now become Valen's most trusted advisor. His voice was steady, but even he couldn't mask the unease that accompanied such a daunting mission. Deploy the cloaking devices, Valen ordered. She turned to the crew around her, each of them now battle-hardened veterans who had fought at her side across countless battles. We must catch them off guard. The element of surprise is our only advantage. The fleet's ships activated their cloaking systems, slipping through the dark void of space, invisible to the naked eye. They moved with caution, knowing that the slightest misstep could result in detection. The asteroid field was a natural obstacle, but it also provided a shield, hiding them from the watchful eyes of the Zorath patrols. For now, they were undetected. The closer they got to the Zoratha's stronghold, the more intense the enemy presence became. The Zorath ships were a dark swarm, patrolling the edges of the field, watching for intruders. But Valen had no intention of waiting for them to discover the human fleet. As the fleet crept through the shadows of the asteroids, she ordered a decoy, a small fleet of expendable ships, to break off and create a diversion. The decoy fleet launched a barrage of plasma fire into the Zorath patrols. It was a calculated risk, knowing it would alert the enemy, but it was also necessary. The Zorath ships immediately turned toward the noise, taking the bait, while the human warships continued their advance undetected. Now, Valen said, her eyes flashing with determination. Strike! The moment the Zorath ships dispersed, the human fleet burst into action, emerging from the cloak and charging forward with lethal speed. The battle had begun. What followed was a brutal, high-stakes clash between the two sides. Human ships, sleek and agile, darted through the asteroid field, avoiding the Zoratha's immense firepower. The Zorath, despite their superior numbers, found themselves at a disadvantage against the humans' tactical genius. Human warlords coordinated their attacks, outmaneuvering their larger and less agile foes. The human fleet's small, nimble ships were able to dart between asteroids, making them nearly impossible to hit. Each Zorath vessel that fell was another reminder of humanity's rise, a symbol that they were no longer the weak species the galaxy once thought them to be. But despite their early successes, the humans knew that the true battle was still ahead. The Zoratha's weapon, the very thing that had led them to this desperate assault, was still operational. The gravity-manipulating station was now visible, floating like a dark monolith in the center of the field, surrounded by shields and guarded by a formidable defense grid. It was an impenetrable fortress. The human fleet couldn't simply rely on brute force to penetrate the defenses, they needed a more subtle approach. As Valen's flagship advanced toward the station, she gave the order for a small strike team to deploy, an elite group of commandos who would board the weapon and disable its core. These commandos, some of the most skilled soldiers humanity had ever produced, were prepared to fight their way through enemy lines and infiltrate the station's core. Among the strike team was Commander Zane Cross, a veteran of countless battles and a man with a reputation for getting things done when others thought all hope was lost. His team was equipped with the latest human technology, including explosives and hacking devices capable of bypassing the Zoratha's high-tech security systems. But the stakes were higher than ever. If they failed, the consequences would be dire. With the cloaking systems temporarily disabled, Zane and his team boarded a small, stealthy transport vessel that would carry them straight to the heart of the Zorath battle station. The ship maneuvered through the battlefield, evading enemy fire and slipping past the Zoratha's outer defenses. They were so close to the weapon now that the gravity pulses could be felt, warping space itself with each passing moment. "Remember," Zane's voice crackled over the comms. "We're not just fighting for our survival. We're fighting for the future of every human and every species that wants freedom from the Zorath. We succeed, or we die." The transport ship landed on the station's outer hull, and the strike team quickly disembarked, moving swiftly and silently as they infiltrated the station. The corridors were eerily quiet, but Zane knew the Zorath would soon be aware of their presence. They had precious little time. Each footstep they took brought them closer to the weapon that could obliterate humanity. As they descended deeper into the heart of the station, the weight of the task at hand felt heavier. But they were humans, resilient, resourceful, and determined. They had come this far. They could not, would not, fail. The final battle was upon them, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The mission had reached its crescendo. The Zoratha's gravity-manipulating weapon loomed ahead, a towering structure of dark metal and unyielding power. Its core, deep within the heart of the battle station, was heavily guarded. Humanity's strike team, led by Commander Zane Cross, moved silently through the labyrinthine corridors of the Zorath station, their footsteps the only sound that echoed in the tense silence. The station itself thrummed with the artificial gravity pulses that powered the weapon. It was as though the very fabric of space bent and twisted around them, the unnatural forces warping the environment in a way that was almost indescribable. The strike team's mission was clear: reach the weapon's core and destroy it, before the Zorath could unleash its cataclysmic power on the galaxy. "Move out," Zane ordered, his voice sharp but calm. "We can't waste time. The longer we're here, the greater the chances they'll bring in reinforcements." The team nodded in unison, their faces hard with resolve. They had come a long way, and they weren't going to fail now. As they advanced deeper into the station, they encountered their first wave of resistance. The Zoratha's elite shock troops, heavily armored and equipped with advanced weaponry, confronted them with fierce determination. The humans had anticipated this, and they fought back with unparalleled precision. Every move, every strike, was a testament to the training and experience that had made humanity the dominant force in the galaxy. Explosions echoed through the corridors as grenades and gunfire filled the air. The Zorath soldiers fought with an almost fanatical zeal, but the humans were quick, resourceful, and deadly. Each Zorath warrior that fell only fueled the strike team's determination to push forward. The station was designed to be a fortress, but humanity's resolve was stronger than any barrier the Zorath had built. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of fighting, they reached the central chamber. It was massive, an immense room with towering walls lined with Zorath technology, pulsing with energy. And there, in the center of the chamber, was the weapon's core, a swirling, unstable mass of gravitational energy. It crackled and hissed, bending light around it as if reality itself was being torn apart. The weapon was ready to fire at any moment. "We're running out of time," Zane said, his voice tense. "Set the charges." The team quickly moved to their designated positions, planting explosives at the core's vulnerable points. But as they worked, something unexpected happened. The station's internal defenses activated, and a deep rumbling shook the ground beneath them. The Zorath had anticipated their plan. Reinforcements poured into the room, and the doors sealed shut behind them, trapping the strike team inside. "We're locked in," one of the soldiers shouted. "They're coming for us." Zane's mind raced. The mission had to succeed. The fate of humanity was riding on this moment. They couldn't afford to be caught, not now. He quickly formulated a plan. "Fall back to the central platform," he barked. "Set the last charges there. We'll fight our way out." With no time to waste, the team regrouped and moved toward the central platform, the only place where they could detonate the charges safely. The Zorath troops were relentless, and they continued to push forward, but the humans fought with a fierce desperation, fueled by the knowledge that their success or failure meant the difference between life and death for billions of people. They reached the platform, and Zane gave the order to activate the detonators. But as he did, a cold, mechanical voice echoed through the room. "Human intruders," it intoned. "You cannot defeat the Zorith." Zane's eyes locked onto the weapon's core. It was pulsing now, the gravitational force growing stronger, threatening to tear the station apart. The countdown to activation had begun. There was no time for speeches, no time for hesitation. This was the endgame. The only option was victory, or else they would all perish. "Now!" Zane shouted. The explosive charges detonated with a deafening roar. The force of the blast shook the entire station, and the core of the weapon shattered in a flash of light, sending shockwaves through the station's very structure. Gravity, once manipulated to serve the Zorith, now spiraled out of control, turning against its creators. But their victory came at a price. The station's systems went into catastrophic failure. The walls began to crack, and the artificial gravity fluctuated violently, throwing everything into chaos. The strike team, battered and bloodied from the battle, knew that they had only moments to escape before the station's collapse would become inevitable. "Move!" Zane ordered. "We're not out yet." With the Zorith forces closing in, the humans sprinted for their lives, navigating the collapsing hallways and crumbling infrastructure of the station. Every second was critical as the once imposing weapon now turned on its creators. The Zorith's final stand had failed, and the humans had emerged victorious, but the cost would be heavy. As they reached the docking bay, the last remaining escape ships prepared for takeoff. The station was collapsing around them, and they had no choice but to launch immediately. "Get us out of here," Zane said to the pilot, his voice low but commanding. The escape ship tore through the station's atmosphere, breaking free just as the station imploded, sending debris in energy waves rippling outward. Behind them, the Zorith's battle station was nothing more than a smoldering wreck, its weapon destroyed, and its empire shattered. The strike team had done the impossible. The galaxy was safe, for now. But as the escape ship soared into the void of space, Zane looked out at the stars, knowing that this was not the end. The Zorith had fallen, but other threats remained. Humanity had proven its power, its resilience, and its ability to overcome the odds. The galaxy would never forget the day that humanity went from weak to warlords, and there was no going back. The future of the galaxy was now in humanity's hands.